Estrogen drops in perimenopause and something shifts in the body that nobody prepares you for. Your tolerance for being last on your own list, for swallowing resentment, for managing everyone else's comfort while your own needs wait, runs out. Not gradually, suddenly. And the woman who held it together for decades finds herself losing it over something that should not matter this much. If that has happened to you, you've probably felt the shame of it long after the moment passed. You've wondered what is wrong with you and why you can't just handle things the way you used to. Nothing is wrong with you. Your body just stopped agreeing to the terms. Hey friends, I'm Sandy Bartlett, shamanic practitioner, and today we're talking about midlife rage, why it happens, what it's actually trying to tell you, and why the shame you feel about it is the most important thing to put down first. Here's what the cycle looks like for most women who find themselves here. You spend a week saying yes to things that cost you, agreeing to things you don't want, absorbing other people's moods, managing other people's discomfort, making yourself smaller in ways so practiced you barely notice them anymore. And then something happens, something genuinely small, a dish in the sink, a comment that lands wrong, a request that comes at the exact wrong moment, and you explode, not proportionally, completely. And then comes the shame spiral, the apology, the return to managing, the private vow that you're going to handle things better next time, until next time comes. This is not a character flaw. It is what happens when a nervous system that has been running a survival strategy for decades finally hits a wall. People pleasing requires enormous amounts of energy. The scanning, the adjusting, the constant low-level calculation of how you're landing and what people need from you that runs underneath everything all the time. By midlife, after 40 plus years of it, the body's capacity to keep carrying that quietly runs out. The hormonal shift accelerates it. But the hormones aren't the cause. They're just what stops the body from absorbing the cost as quietly as it used to. In shadow work, the snapping is not the problem. It is information. The shadow holds everything you exiled. The directness that got you a cold response. The anger that felt dangerous to show. The needs that were too inconvenient. The parts of you that were told, explicitly or not, that they were too much. Those parts didn't disappear. They went underground. And they've been accumulating pressure down there for a very long time. When they surface as rage in midlife, that is not you losing control. That is the exiled self pushing back. She is tired of waiting. She is not willing to stay quiet anymore. And she's going to make herself known one way or another through the controlled release of shadow integration work or through the uncontrolled release of losing it in the kitchen on a Tuesday. Those are genuinely the options. The explosion is not the enemy. It is the messenger. The question is whether you're going to listen to what it's saying or just keep apologizing for it. When did you lose it over something small, and what were you actually angry about underneath it? Tell me the story in the comments. That gap between the small thing and the real thing is the whole conversation. Want to tell you a story. The day I found the love letters, I didn't explode. That's the part that still surprises me when I think about it. My husband had told me he wanted to separate. We were still living together, still moving through the house like a family, and I was walking on eggshells, hoping that space meant something other than finality. Then he went out of town one weekend and his mother called, not him, to tell me he'd be staying an extra night in San Francisco. He couldn't even lie to my face directly. When he came home, there was a road rash across his back and shoulder. No explanation. Tuesday, I went to his car and I found the letters. Love letters from another woman sent to our home, thanking him for roses. I left a note. I went to a friend's house. I sat in her safety and let the truth settle in. No explosion, just eerie quiet. The kind of quiet that comes from having spent so many years swallowing things that by the time the worst thing happened, the mechanism just kept running. Absorb, manage, hold it together. Don't make a scene. Later, I checked his bag and found condoms. We didn't use condoms. I understood then that I'd seen him buying them the night before his trip and stayed silent. All those years of staying quiet, managing the temperature of the room, not making things harder than they had to be, and what it cost me in the end was the ability to hear my own alarm system when it was screaming. This is what the suppression does over time. It doesn't just silence the anger, it silences the knowing. If you're recognizing this, not just the anger, but the cost of what came before it, the years of swallowing things that needed to be said, this is shadow integration work. Shadow integration is the process of reclaiming the parts of yourself you exiled to keep the peace, not becoming the explosion. Learning to hear what it's carrying before it reaches critical mass. I offer one-to-one shamanic sessions for women who are ready for that. The link to book is in the description. Here is what shadow integration is not. It is not anger management. It is not learning to control the response so nobody around you has to be uncomfortable. That's just a more sophisticated version of the strategy that got you here. Here's what it looks like instead. A woman feels the heat rising. Her husband left the dishes again, and she can feel the explosion coming. The old way, she either swallows it for the 100th time or she detonates over a frying pan. The integration work gives her a third option. She feels the heat, and instead of acting on it or burying it, she gets curious. This is so much bigger than dishes. What is this actually about? And underneath, the real thing is waiting. I have been carrying this entire house for 15 years, and no one has ever asked if I wanted to. That's the work. Not silencing the anger, not exploding it. Learning to hear what it's been carrying before it reaches critical mass. When women do this, the anger doesn't disappear. It gets cleaner. Less about the dish, more about the truth the dish was standing in for. So let me ask you, what does your anger usually tell you when you let yourself actually listen to it? One word or one sentence? Leave it below in the comments. The shame you feel after you snap is understandable, but it is also the thing most worth examining. Because the shame is not about the explosion. It's about the exposure. Something got out that you have been working very hard to keep contained, and now someone saw it. And the old wiring, the one that says being too much is dangerous, that losing control is unacceptable, that a good woman handles things without making a scene, fires immediately. That wiring is old. It was built in a time when it served a purpose. It does not have to be the thing that runs the rest of your life. The snapping is not who you are becoming. It is what happens when who you have been can no longer hold. And that breaking open, as comfortable as it is where the real work gets to begin. I'll see you next time.